I want to loop back around on something you mentioned. And it reminded me of a story of a friend of mine, and he had a horrible experience on a plane, and he never, is still has never taken a airplane since that experience. And so he drives everywhere, and it just becomes so rambunctious. My point is that really taught me a lesson where, you could have an experience, a negative experience in your life, dictate the future of it, or you can obviously learn from it and say, well, that was only one experience and that may happen again, but at least I can mitigate that a little bit. I can learn from that, what happened, and overcome it. My point is you had a stalker, but you allowed it to, kind of mitigate that a little bit, but then you learn from it, you grew from it. And I want to dive into that a little bit further, mainly on the personal stuff, because I think we've all had where we've deployed, $1 million into in a bad investment, and you go, man, I just blew that money, or whatever it was. Like you just it's just part of life. And so instead of sitting there going, oh, I'm never going to deploy money ever again into that sector, blockchain or whatever, it's more of, okay, what can I learn from this, right? And
Yeah.
my point is what did you learn? How did you grow from that? Who was beside you to help you have the right perspective in that personal situation? If you don't mind unpacking that a little bit.
Okay. I'll, the truth, I'll tell you the truth. All right. The truth is, when I was really young, like back when I started Animal Fair, um, first of all, I've been a health nut my whole life. I've been a vegetarian, blah, blah, blah. But I was with somebody at the time that was a smoker that got me smoking. And I started when I was so stressed, starting Animal Fair and all this kind of stuff. Uh, this is going to go somewhere that you're going to crack up. All right. So, anyways, and so I was working 24 hours a day to seriously create Animal Fair and make this happen and help the world and help animals. And I was smoking like literally a pack of reds a day. Me, like who's a yogi, blah 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 blah. And I'll never forget a friend of mine who is a producer at 2020 called me for lunch. And she says, hey, I haven't seen you for so long. Let's have lunch. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so busy. I can't. She's like, everyone needs to eat. Let's just go meet for lunch. And I'm like, okay. And I get there and I had like the Nicorette gum. I was like, or Nicorette gum. I had the patch on. I was like smoking. I said, take me to St. Vincent's Hospital if I have a heart attack. And she says, really interesting. We just had a segment on 2020 on a guy called the Mad Russian. And she said, Harvard did a study on him, spent $30 million. They couldn't figure out what it was, but they said it worked. And literally at 1 hour, $65 cash, he would get you to quit smoking. And so I literally the next week went to Boston and I went to go see him. And he's this cute little chubby, bald headed, like Russian guy, and 20 people in the room. 20 people were in the room. Like one was a heroin addict, one was like a cocaine dealer. It was like this crazy group of people, right? Who were going there for addictions. And in 1 hour and $65 cash, 20 some years ago, literally that person did more for me in my life. Like when I'm on my deathbed, I will like say thank you to him. He literally in 1 hour and $65 cash got me to stop smoking, stop biting my nails. I now work out 3 times a week. I take vitamins every day. But the most important thing I learned, by the way, and when I say I've done this now because of him every day for 20, my whole life, right? Um, One thing I learned from him that most people don't, if you Google him, you'll see a lot of people like are like me. But I feel like I got more from him because I was just like, oh my God, I want to be better. I'm going to listen to everything. I don't want to smoke. I want to just, oh my gosh, I want to be better. So one thing I learned from him is everything's in our mind, the way we see, think, and feel. So the minute your mind goes, oh, the dark, oh, my life sucks, blah, 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 blah. Well, I seriously, one, because of him, I know how to quickly get out of that and be like, who are you kidding? I've got the greatest life. What's the worst that could happen? It's the key word. What's the worst that could happen? I could eat pizza and live in my home, right? Like, you have to always remember, as long as, you did not do anything wrong or you didn't do anything right, you just have to remember that, that it's that this is a problem and we're going to get over it because what is an issue? Something you have not gotten over. But once you deal with it, you no longer have an issue. And so literally with this stalker, I just knew like every day I was just like, there's a positive from this. I don't know whether I'm going to know in a day, a year, or 10 years. There's some positive to this, right? And I've always been like an optimist, and I've always been happy, and I've always been, because I've always, I when I was a kid, I had to go through some crazy stuff. And but I've always just been one of these people that have always just thought, everything's a positive. Like there's a reason why I'm going through this. And look at, if I didn't go through the stalker, at the time, when I was like on the Today Show every month, I had a primetime show on CBS, all this stuff, right? But if I didn't go through the stalker, I would have never created Women's Entrepreneurship Day organization. There would never have been a program to help disabled women become entrepreneurs funded by Google for startups around the world. There would never have been, XYZ. There wouldn't have been base pods that are going to help pets live longer and healthier lives. Maybe they could have done it another way, but I was very interested in that company. But you know what I'm saying? There's like so much. And I feel like, wow, like everything, if I die tomorrow, it's been a great ride. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like going through all this craziness, and you're just like, wow, this has been like a crazy ride. If somebody would have told me, like, when I was drinking a 6-pack of beer in the Dairy Queen parking lot in Cleveland, Ohio, when I was growing up, that I'd live the life I'm living now, I'd be like, when can I begin?
That's so awesome. That is so awesome.